What do you say to people who argue that your candidacy only helps Trump win by not throwing your full weight behind the establishment nominee Kamala Harris? Um, you are inherently helping take voters away from them and thus leading to Trump's reelection. And I mean, like growing up, all we heard and throughout college that voting for a third party candidate or an independent candidate is basically throwing your vote away. How do you respond to this?
This is the propaganda of the political elites. This is part of their 24/7 campaign, nonstop PR campaign to basically disempower their resistance. They do not want competition. This is part of how they suppress the competition by making you think that you do not deserve your vote. Actually, your vote is your power. It is our only power in a democracy. Unfortunately, our democracy has been sold down the creek, so it's mostly run by big money. But the only power that we have is the power of our vote. Don't let them talk you out of your vote. They have to earn your vote. They want you to think that they own your vote. They don't own your vote. They have to earn it. They haven't earned it. You know, all this fear mongering about Trump. Well, who is it that's conducting genocide? Who's been leading the charge in this genocidal war? That's been a Democratic administration, or leading the charge on suppression. And censorship, or leading the charge on, on the militarization of our police. You've probably heard about Cop City in Atlanta. Well, that's under a Democratic city council
New York
that
now.
is basic. What's that?
It's in New York now as well.
Yes, and Cop City is now, they're being built all over the country in just about every state. There are like 70 of these, police training academies that are under construction or they're already built. And who is it that's training our police? It's the Israeli occupation forces that is now engaged in formal training of our police, which is why we're seeing such horrific brutality that is rolling out against students, against everyday people. About what? About our right to free speech, our right to critique our foreign policy. It's supposed to be subject to scrutiny and debate. That was the whole purpose of the First Amendment. The First Amendment is first because we as the public need to be educated. We need a free press, and we also need freedom of speech. And we need the freedom to protest. This is like what American democracy is based on, but this is what is actively being suppressed, and especially by Democrats who are leading the charge here. So, the Republicans are notorious for challenging elections after the fact, but the Democrats are notorious for basically biasing and harming our elections before the fact. One is not better than the other. These are both absolutely unacceptable. So we say we don't have to wait for Donald Trump for fascism. We have fascism, which is here right now, going very well. And remember, the Democrats have had an awful lot to do with making the Republicans an extreme party. This is both because the Democratic agenda is an agenda of neoliberalism, which means austerity, privatization, and tax giveaways to the super rich. So this creates, like the 30 million jobs that have been lost over the last 3 or 4 decades. It's that kind of desperation that then, creates real momentum for demagogues. And by the way, the Democrats had a project called the Pied Piper strategy, by which they elevated Donald Trump. We know this from the leaks of the Podesta files. We know that the Democrats were in the business of giving Trump, a lot of publicity and promotion and really pushing him through their contacts in the press because they thought he would be the easiest to beat. Well, it's not just in that race that succeeded so well that they continue to use this strategy. And in 2022, in the midterms, they spent over $50 million elevating the most extreme Republicans in the primary, who they then beat, but then those Republicans go on to launch their careers in the Republican Party. So it's not like we have one party, which is the danger here, and the other one is okay. No, they're both really creating this absolute crisis of rising fascism and the destruction of our democracy and everything that goes with it. Look at the money that poured into Kamala Harris's campaign in a week. It was like $200 million. It was way more than Trump had earned. And than Trump had raised even, so the big money is really going to the Democrats right now. So neither of these are okay. And we should not be intimidated or extorted by fear into thinking that we have to silence ourselves, because if you vote for the lesser evil, you have silenced yourself. And if you want an end to genocide, or you want a student debt bailout, it doesn't exist. If you haven't voted for it, it doesn't exist. So if we want to move forward in any way, we have to stand up and own our votes so that we can own our future. Otherwise, we don't. So we really encourage people, do not listen to the politicians and the pundits who tell you to keep voting for them when they are throwing you under the bus. If you look at when the Democrats had their biggest electoral loss, it was the election of 2010, the midterms, where they lost 1,000 seats in state legislatures. They lost 64 seats in Congress and somewhere around 12 or 13 in the Senate, and the same number of governorships. It wasn't because of a third party. It's because they've thrown their base under the bus. They have lost this for themselves if they lose it. And right now they're doing such a spin job around Harris and Walz that they're coming up. They may actually do very well in the polls, but still, people should not drink the Kool-Aid. This is like Obama 2.0. If you think Obama was good for working people when he threw 8 million homeowners out of their homes so that he could bail out Wall Street, to the tune of trillions of dollars, we're kind of being fed the same Kool-Aid right now. So